On today's episode of Video Marketing Madness, copyright, music, and YouTube. And today's episode is made possible by freevideoeditor.co. Are you looking to start making videos? Do you want to start editing, but you don't want to spend the high cost of Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere or any of those types of software as well? Then jump on board our free video editor where you can download it today along with all the goodies that we have along with it. And you can start editing like a pro super fast. And that's with freevideoeditor.co. And leave off the last M4. Oh, I usually look down here and see if there's any M's. I don't see an M. So leave off the last M for mother. Why not?
Mother.
Leave it off for mother.
Okay.
Leave off.
That's
so
good.
freevideoeditor.co. And with that, shall we play that funky music, white boy?
Hit it, Ray.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Uh-oh.
I forgot to preload it. It's going to take a second.
Not again.
He's Ray the video guy, yeah, Ray the video guy. His skill is where it's at, even if he's a little fat. He's filled with video expertise and has so much knowledge that you need. His YouTube ninja tricks can make your marketing so sick. He's Ray the video guy, yeah, Ray the video guy.
And it's the radio show about Video Marketing Madness with Ray the Video Guy, and I'm Steve Sleeper. You can catch us on, Facebook Live. We record it as a Facebook Live, but our home network is earn.show. And we're on some podcatchers like Stitcher and Apple Podcasts, formerly known as iTunes.
Yes, indeed. Great places to check us out.
That's
so,
right.
Steve, before we get talking about the copyright and the music, one of the title topics here is YouTube, and of course, we all know YouTube has made a ton of changes over the last couple of days, mostly cosmetic, and partly cosmetic, partly just to move things around so you can't find them anymore.
Yeah,
and
right.
Nothing functionally has changed too much, but they've made what I think are some pretty nice changes. Now, on some of my channels, I've actually had many of these changes for what seems like forever, whereas others still were using the old one up until just the other day. But, the new look kind of, it's a more clean look, I think. They've gone very clean. If you go back and look at a YouTube video or a YouTube channel from years ago compared to what they have now, it's quite a difference. It's a very clean look now, very open. And one of the cool things they've added is the ability to do both a light and a dark theme. So if you like to watch things with a nice dark themed background, you can actually turn YouTube into like a charcoal gray instead of a white background, and just kind of darkens things up for those of you that like it that way. I've tried it both. I still think I prefer the light background better, to be honest, but I'm trying out the black one to see if I can get used to it. So we'll see what happens, but... And in case you have that option now. Now, the weird thing about this is that, one thing that's very good they finally did is in the new layout, when you go to the top and you go over to where your icon is, you can actually click over to your channel. I've been asking for this for 5 years probably, because it's very annoying when you open up YouTube and you're logged in, but you can't get to your channel by clicking anything. You have to go to your Creator Studio and then hit View Channel. And now they have that option right in the menu at the top. You can click on that and you can go, boom, right to your actual channel and see what's going on there. So big improvement. I love that. It's a simple thing, but it's definitely much better. And before I used to use TubeBuddy, which allowed you to get quicker access to that. So the fact that they've added that in, fantastic. We love that.
You know what I've been doing?
What's that?
Hitting the switch to old layout button.
That's what a lot of people
so
are
used
doing,
to it. Well, yeah, and the thing is, that's probably going to go away at some point. So you got to get used to the new layout. But
absolutely.
Normally, I'm in such a hurry to get stuff done that what I need to do is just some of my stuff, that I'm goofing around with, is take the time to learn the new layout. Then, so.
Yeah. Well, and the one that seems to be causing people a lot of trouble is getting to their info section, so the about section for their channel, when they want to add their about information or they want to add, their Facebook or their website or their Twitter to their homepage. A lot of people are having trouble finding that, and they did
figured
move that
it out.
around. Yeah, I made a video for a couple of people to show them how it's done. Most of them went back and go, "Oh, well, I found this button that says an old layout, and I just went there and did it."
Yeah.
And the funny thing is half of YouTube still uses the old layout. So it's your channel looks different, your normal user experience in YouTube looks different, but then when you go into the back end, it actually looks just like the old one, and it doesn't even have the new menu under your icon or anything. It still has that old menu like before, which is kind of strange. But mostly it's cosmetic changes. I actually got fooled by it trying to update a playlist the other day. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Where in the world is because doing the playlist, you have to go into the playlist, and then you have to hit a little edit button, and then it takes you to the playlist edit. It's very strange. But
well, how I figured all this out, and this is kind of funny. I remember the day they made the announcement on the new layout, I copied and pasted the URL and PM'd you in Facebook.
Right.
And then the next day I had an attorney that wanted to optimize his YouTube channel and start using it for things that we're doing. So I had him on the phone, because I needed him to do a few things and blah, blah, blah. And I get there and I'm like, what the heck? And I'm trying to figure things out, and then it dawned on me they got a new layout. So in the meantime, I didn't see the switch to old layout. And fortunately, this is a guy I've been working with for a long time, so he didn't think I was a total idiot. But so here I got this attorney on the phone. I'm like, duh.
Well, they like to make changes like that, and it's funny because at one point in time. Now, I used to have a tool or a training that I did called YouTube Market Crusher, and it taught you how to set up YouTube for marketing and whatnot. And I did a couple of different updates. So there's the original one, there was version 2 when things had changed, there was version 3. And quite literally, and I forget which version it was, it might have been version 3, I was 99% done with the entire program, and without any fanfare or, hey, this is going to be changing. So they made a complete change to the entire look and feel of the things. The entire program was completely useless, and I had to start over.
No.
So, but I did have the most up to date, program out there because it was all brandy spanking new. But yeah, it kind of messed me up there, and
Of course, remember back in the traffic geyser days, we were able to rank videos on page 1, and then April 2010, they rolled out Places, and they superseded getting the videos on page 1, and a lot of business units went away.
I don't know. Getting videos into page 1's usually not too difficult anymore. So
yeah, it just depends on the competition.
It does, and one little thing to talk about with that, and I know we're getting off on a tangent here, but one of the things people leave out a lot of times is the power of your channel. And people forget that, just because you do a good video, just because you put it up, just because you run some links to it or whatever it is that you do to try and rank your video, if you've got a weak channel, it's going to really make it difficult to do that if there's any competition. And I learned that recently trying to help a business take videos that they've had for a while and put them up, into page 1. I even took one of their videos, I kind of re-edited it a little bit, re-put it up there and tried to get it to rank up there, and it just didn't rank very well. And in the process of doing that, we distributed out the video, and what it did was it actually put the video into one of my accounts, one of my channels, and put it out there, and that one ranked right to the top. And so their video on my channel, without me doing any optimization whatsoever other than just doing it, jumped right to the top, and their video was still kind of struggling. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, that's not the way we want this to work.
Hey, let me ask you something. This attorney, we optimized his channel, but he doesn't have any subscribers. Can we still buy those on Fiverr, or what's the deal there?
Theoretically, you could, but here's the problem. YouTube's gotten pretty smart with all that kind of stuff. And unless they're really subscribers, unless they're real subscribers, now they don't have to really, they could be random people that don't care about your stuff, but unless they're real subscribers, YouTube's probably going to catch on. There's been a lot of celebrities that have faked subscribers and faked views and gotten massively hit for doing that. We're talking like big names that everybody knows getting their videos pulled, or having their subscribers suddenly drop by 1 million. They had 5 million subscribers, and all of a sudden the next day they had 4 million because, most of them were not real accounts.
I remember that.
So, I mean, it depends on what they're doing. If they're really going out and getting people to subscribe to your channel, yeah, you can get the numbers, but do the numbers mean anything? I mean, it's just kind of a...
So buyer beware.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, some of the things that YouTube allows you to do now requires that you have a certain number of subscribers. So I could see the value in that for that purpose of hitting that magic number so that you can get 100 certain things.
Yeah, we
but
just need 100,
The problem is, I mean, if you're trying to help somebody market on YouTube and you're buying them subscribers, it's going to be people that don't care about what you're selling. So it just doesn't make any sense. I'd rather have only 100 subscribers that like my product and buy stuff than 10,000 subscribers when they're all, could care less. It just doesn't, it doesn't help much. So,
yeah.
Okay. You definitely want to build the strength of your channel, get it, do the same types of SEO type things you would normally do, but do it for your channel. Make sure that all the information's there. Make sure that you use the account. That's one thing that people seem to forget is they don't use their account. And what I mean by that is, log into your account, go watch some videos, comment on some videos, things like that to let Google know or YouTube know that, hey, this is an active account. We're not just putting up videos, we're actually active on YouTube. And that can really make a big difference, I think. And, of course, doing all the traditional SEO stuff will certainly help as well. So
excellent.
But of course,
copyright music and YouTube. Yeah.
Yes. So many people have lots and lots of questions about copyright, about music. And, it can be a very complicated thing because you have copyrighted music, you've got royalty-free music, you've got copyright-free music, public domain stuff, and, of course, you've got music that might be copyrighted, but you have rights to use. And, there's just a lot of different things going on here and different ways you can do that. And then, of course, there's fair use, which can be very confusing. And so I wanted to kind of go over some of this and really discuss the way that music is used on YouTube. Because obviously music is a big important part of video. People doing training videos, people doing commercials. A lot of times we use music in the background of our videos, and that can actually hurt us if we're not doing it properly. And what I mean by that is if you go and get your favorite Vanilla Ice song and stick it on to your commercial video, you're probably going to get that video removed, or you're going to have the soundtrack turned off on you, or Vanilla Ice might monetize that video and make money off of you, in which case, if you're running your own commercial, you probably don't want to have advertisements running on your video at that point, and that's one thing they can do. And so I wanted to kind of go through some of the things in there. So the big thing is, whenever you're using music in YouTube, you're going to want to have permission to do so. Now, what I mean by that is, even if you purchased a track from a place like Audio Jungle or wherever you happen to purchase music from, Music Bakery, whatever, you want to make sure that you have the actual copyright information around and with you, so that way, if anything ever goes wrong, you can say to YouTube, hey, I've got a license to use it, here's that license, and they'll be able to take care of it and make sure that everything goes back to normal. And the reason you need permission is because when it comes to copyright, the onus is on the video creator, the person using the music. So it's not the onus is not on YouTube to make sure that everything's legal. The onus is not on the person who wrote the song to make sure everything's legal. The onus is on you. And believe it or not, Steve, I could go to one of your videos right now, claim my own copyright to the music, and they have to shut you off.
That's right.
They have to. Now, you could come back and be like, hey, this guy doesn't own the copyright, or hey, I've got permission to use it, and they'll turn it back on. But it can be done that way. And believe me, there are people that will go out there and they'll just, oh, gee, I've got competition on YouTube. I'll just get them shut down. And they just go and complain. And they have to pull it down. They don't have to prove anything at that point, because it's then up to you to prove that you have the rights to use it. And so that can be a daunting task. So you want to make sure, no matter what kind of music you're using, that you have some form of proof showing that you can use it. I've actually heard people comment that they've used some of the music that YouTube provides, because YouTube actually does provide you with tracks you can use in your videos, and that they've had some of those tracks pulled. They've had videos shut down for using those tracks. So it can be very daunting. It can be a very strange deal. One story that I have is, there was a piece of royalty-free music, and what happened was somebody went, and by the way, they're not allowed to do this, but they did it anyway. This is something you're not allowed to do. A musician took that piece of music and used it as the background to his song.
Right.
So he was doing a different song, he was playing a different melody, but he had that that royalty-free piece of music as a background track in his copyrighted song. So he went and got the song copyrighted, that went through, and all of a sudden people using the original song were getting their stuff shut down. Now, the guy who copyrighted his song, that was illegal. You're not allowed, it's part of the actual contract says you can't do that. And you have to follow what the music creator says. If the music creator is selling you royalty-free music, they're going to have rules with that, and you have to follow those rules. If you don't, they can file a complaint. Well, this guy didn't follow the rules and then copyrighted the song, and now everybody else was getting shut down. And it's a big fight to do that. And you had to basically you just had to provide, hey, here's my thing that says I have the rights to use this, and they'll usually put it back on unless there's some reason that they they have to fight that or whatever. But legally on their part, they have to pull it down until you provide proof at that point that you are allowed to use that. Okay, so you definitely want to make sure you've got some sort of documentation handy so that you can put it out and say, hey, I bought this and here's my license for it. So the question is, how do you get permission to use a piece of music? Well, there's a couple of ways. If you purchase royalty-free music, for instance, if you go to iStock or you go to Video Hive or Audio Jungle, they're going to provide you with a document that you could use if anybody ever questions it and show, hey, look, I've got permission to use this, and that will help kind of be your get out of jail free card, and it'll help you with that particular thing. So that's one way you want to get it. The other way is you can actually get written permission from the people who wrote the music. So for instance, let's say you've got a friend who has a band and they've written a song and they've recorded it in a studio and they've given it to you and said, hey, yeah, go ahead, use this. Well, make sure you get it in writing, because what can happen is things can change. You know, they give you permission today, but let's say they get signed by a label tomorrow who then takes technical ownership of the catalog of music. Well, now they can complain about you using their song because they didn't make the agreement with you. But if you have it written in paper, that you, at the time that you got permission, they were the owners, and then they can't complain about that. They have to let that through. Now, of course, when I say they have to let that through, we are talking about usually at this point a big corporation dealing with another big corporation in YouTube, dealing with you as an individual. They may just not let you do it anyway. But point being is, if you have that piece of paper, you should be okay with that. So just make sure you keep that around. The other thing with that is that, let's say you want to use an actual copyrighted song. There are ways to go about doing that as well. And chances are what you have to do is go through like ASCAP and BMI to get permission. I had a friend, he did a video where he used a copyrighted song, The Dogs of War, which a lot of people may know that song. It's a pretty well-known song. And they had to go out and get permission to actually use that. And they got it. They got permission to be able to use that song. And they had to pay a royalty, and it was like nothing. It was like, for every copy they sold, they had to pay like, 5 cents or something like that. And they were selling at the time DVDs with this music, so they had to pay 5 cents. So, probably only sold 200 of them, so they didn't have to pay much for it, but they were able to legally use that song in their promotion. So it was,
radio stations got to do the same thing.
Yeah, radio stations, they've got to go through ASCAP and BMI and buy a license. Now, you don't necessarily have to do that. You don't need to go and buy a license, which is going to be very expensive. In this case, they actually, who Dogs of War is that? Pink Floyd, I think? If I remember correctly, I think it's Pink Floyd.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
So they had to actually write to Pink Floyd or to their record company and get permission in that case. So it was just a direct for one song. But you can tell I'm such a big Pink Floyd fan that I know these things.
Yeah, you love Pink Floyd.
So, yes.
Just like I truly am a Pink Floyd fan. Ray, not so much. So
I just don't care either way. But
well, I shouldn't say he hates them. He just, he doesn't care either way. Whereas, I'm an old hippie. So
yes, of course. So that's one thing you can do, and you can, it is possible to get permission from large named artists like that to be able to do that. So, you know, the way that these things work, by the way, and this is something that needs to be talked about here, is when you have a copyright violation, there are a few different things that can happen with this. So, for instance, let's say that you took a piece of music and you used it in a video, and either you weren't supposed to, or they don't know that you're not supposed to yet, and they pull it down. What can happen is one of a few things. Is one, they can just pull your video down. They can just take it right offline, in which case you're not going to have access to it anymore. And I shouldn't say that. It'll actually still be in your YouTube account, because they'll give you the opportunity to prove that you have rights to use the music, but they'll pull it so people can't watch it. It will be unviewable on YouTube anymore. It'll actually show up in your back end. It'll have little brackets, and I think it's has something. It tells you that it's not usable. I can't remember what the wording is, but they'll tell you it's not usable and give you the opportunity to prove that you have the rights to use it. But the other thing they can do is the artist. So let's say you did, we'll go back to Vanilla Ice. You did Vanilla Ice's song, and it goes out there. What can happen is that depending upon how Vanilla Ice or his record company or whoever handles that kind of thing does these types of things, there's a few things that can happen. One, they could just let it go. They could let you use it. There are some artists out there that don't mind people using their songs in YouTube videos because it gets their music out there more. Now, it's tough to come by because a lot of, whether the artists like it or not, a lot of times the record labels don't like it. But there are some artists where you can actually get away with doing that, and they actually don't have a problem with it. So they can actually pass. They can let it go. Don't use Let It Go. That's Disney. They'll definitely take you down. The other thing that they can do is they can actually silence your audio. So they may leave the video up, but there'll be no audio. And that can, of course, in most cases would probably destroy your video anyway. So you don't want that to happen. The other thing that could happen is they could start running ads. So if Vanilla Ice, rather than having people remove the song, people are probably going, why in the world does he keep talking about Vanilla Ice? We were making jokes about Vanilla Ice before the show started.
Sorry. Do.
Yes.
Word to your mother.
So the other thing that Vanilla Ice or his record company could do is they could run ads on your videos. So they could say, hey, we claim copyright ownership of this music, so we're taking his ad revenue. Now, for me, I don't do a lot of ad revenue, so really it wouldn't make any difference. But imagine if you are somebody who does a lot of ad revenue. You're somebody who gets millions of views and is making money directly from YouTube. Well, now all of a sudden, those thousands of dollars that you're making, they're going over to Vanilla Ice instead. Yep. So that's something you definitely need to consider. Yes. So you definitely want to pay attention to that. Make sure that you're not using that. Make sure you've got your permissions and that everything is hunky-dory beforehand, because you don't want to get yourself shut down, because it's no fun.
Yeah.
The other question that people often have about this is, well, let's say that you belong to a music library. Maybe it's a monthly subscription and you get access to all of the different musics. What happens if you stop paying the library and you've got videos out there that use some of their songs? Well, this can vary from company to company. You may want to check out, all the details of how they handle these types of things. In most cases, if you used it at the time that you were part of the club membership, then you're covered and you shouldn't have any issues. Does that mean you won't have issues? No, because you could have issues even if everything is perfectly legal, because people like to play games and do things they're not supposed to. So you got to be careful with that. You got to keep your eye out. But people will definitely play these kinds of games. So you definitely want to, check if you're part of a music service and you want to quit, check and see what they do about music that you've already used. I was in a club for something totally different the other day. I had all these credits built up and I wasn't using it. So I decided to cancel the club because I was just paying a lot, money every month for nothing because I had so many credits built up. Well, about 2 weeks later, I went into the account and I didn't realize all the credits are gone. Oh. So all the things that I built up over the last couple of months that I weren't using, they were all gone. So you definitely want to check and make sure that that they don't do that with your music afterwards. And now the final thing I want to talk about with this has to do with what we call fair use. Now, if you don't know what fair use is, technically what it says is that if a music is incidental, or if you're critiquing the music, but you're not using it as a way to make money, then you can get away with using it in certain situations. Now, that's the legal definition of it. Well, no, that's not the legal definition. That's my take on it. But legally speaking, that's kind of how it works. However, in actual business sense, that's not necessarily what happens, because just because you think it's fair use, and you might be 100% correct, that doesn't mean that the copyright holder agrees with you, and they can still try to pull your stuff down. Now, you can fight that it's fair use. You might win, and if you're correct, you may still win. But if you're correct, you may still lose, because it's one of those things that's if you take it to court, the judge may side with you. He may not. It's all in the eye of the beholder. They have to decide whether it's fair use or not. And with music, it's a lot tougher. There was a case recently where somebody had put up a video of their child just dancing around, and in a very small section of it, there was a song, and I can't remember who the artist was. I think we talked about it on here a couple weeks ago, and I knew the artist then. I can't remember who it was, but
James Brown. Let's say it was James Brown.
Yeah, well, it wasn't James Brown, but we'll say it was. But
Vanilla
in any
Ice.
case, it was Vanilla Ice. It wasn't Vanilla Ice, but it was Vanilla Ice. But anyway, so what happened was YouTube picked up on, there's a song there. They pulled it down. Well, they said, hey, it's fair use, and we're not monetizing it, because they weren't making any money off this. It was just a fun video. And the couple who put the video up, even though this wasn't a monetary thing, they actually sued about it. They sued YouTube, and they won. The judge said, they were not monetizing this music. The music was just in the background while they were shooting a video. It wasn't even intentionally put there. You got to put it back up. So YouTube had to put it back up. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, stupid YouTube, can't believe they did that. Well, you know what? YouTube might have agreed with the lady, this couple. They might have agreed with them. They still had to take it down. They have to. They don't have a choice. And they might have been happy that the judge sided with the lady so they could put it back up. We don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. That there's the possibility that they were glad that this went to court this way. I don't know if that's true or not, because it sets precedent for this. And fair use is a very subjective thing, and you've got to be careful. So, if we look at some of the examples here on this fair use thing, so the purpose of fair use, if you're using copyrighted material for purposes that include education, research, news, criticism, or commentary, those are generally favorable towards fair use. Other considerations, whether this is for nonprofit or not, nonprofit is more favorable than for-profit cases. So listen to that wording there, more favorable. It doesn't mean that if you're doing a critique and you use a piece of music, a part of a piece of music while you're critiquing it and you're making money, it doesn't mean it's not fair use because you're making money. You can still win with that. But when it's nonprofit, they almost always side with you, just because why wouldn't they? So the nature of this, if you're using material that has not been physically published, that is seen unfavorably towards fair usage. Additionally, using factual copyright content is more likely to be fair use than creative work is. The amount, okay, and this is what people get hung up on all the time, the amount of the music that you use. So how much copyrighted material you use proportionally directly impacts fair use. For example, if you have a 3-minute clip of a 4-minute video, that is less likely to be fair use compared to using 15 to 30 seconds. Also, what you use will matter as well in the above example. If you use the 15 to 30 seconds that make the video special or interesting, it may not be considered fair use. Okay, so I don't know if that makes sense or not, but in other words, if the clip is very small in a larger video, it is probably fair use. However, if it's specifically used for a purpose to make the video interesting, so for instance, let's say you're making a video and you're talking about making money online, and you cut away to a guy who's supposed to be wealthy, and you use money, 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 money. Oh boy, we're into Pink Floyd today, aren't we?
No, that's the OJs.
Is it?
Yeah, money is.
Oh, money.
Money.
Yeah.
Dun, dun,
so if
dun,
you use either one of
it's
those
a gas.
songs, but it's specifically to enhance, maybe you've got a picture of a guy throwing money around because he's wealthy, that's
Yeah.
probably not going to be considered fair use, even though it's short, because you're using it to enhance and make a point. So we're having a music lesson here besides
Yeah,
copyright lessons
yeah.
here, folks. The value. If you use a piece of if your use of a piece of content takes away value from the original piece, it's less likely to be fair use. Basically, if someone views your piece of content, will they need to view the source material? If you've taken away the reason to watch the source, then it's not likely fair use. So in other words, if you play the whole song and then people, well, I don't need to buy it now because I've already heard it, well, then that's probably not going to be considered fair use. However, if it's short and you're talking about it and you were able to send people to that, well, then that's obviously a totally different story. And then there's the transformative issue. If you use the copyrighted content in a transformative way, it may be considered fair use. For instance, a parody, a new technology, or a remix. Basically, you need to use the content in a way that was never used before. Okay? So, for instance, I did a funny video one time with using Star Trek clips and putting them together into, a funny little video that had me being the alien and whatnot. And that was considered fair use because, it was transformative. It was used for a different purpose. Now, does that mean that, the relatives of Gene Roddenberry won't come next week and shut me down? They could try and shut that down, but chances are it's going to be considered fair use. It's parody. It's, it's short pieces and whatnot. So it likely would fall under that. So that's fair use. So just be aware of these things. Make sure that if you're using music, that you've got the rights to use it, that you've got the documentation to show you have the rights. And if it's fair use, just make sure that it really is fair use and that you're not trying to skirt the system there. If you do these things, you're likely to be okay. You got to understand that YouTube makes partnerships with these music companies, and they've got software that detects when a piece of music is in there. So it's not like a human being is necessarily going, oh, they're using a Vanilla Ice song. Well, when you put a Vanilla Ice song in your video, exactly, they may pick up on that and shut you down. Now, that actually, it's funny we bring up Vanilla Ice because there's an interesting part of that with that exact line, because obviously that particular stretch of the music in the Vanilla Ice song is actually taken from Queen and David Bowie.
Yeah.
And so what happens if Queen and David Bowie have their song copyrighted and says take it down off YouTube, but Vanilla Ice doesn't? People use the Vanilla Ice song. The content ID hears that melody and pulls it down because of the other one. So there's a lot of different things that could happen there. So you just want to be careful. And quite honestly, if you get production music, you're not going to have to deal with most of this stuff. So it's going to make it a lot easier. Now, one thing to understand: production music, royalty-free music, whatever you want to call it, does not mean it's copyright-free. It does not mean that Content ID won't pick up on it, because they're still just like Vanilla Ice is selling music to you. These guys are selling music to you. Their music is copyrighted. They're just much liberaler with the liberaler. Is that a word? More liberal, I guess.
More liberal.
They're much more liberal with how they use their licensing by being royalty free. They let you use the music without paying a royalty, whereas Vanilla Ice would charge you a royalty to use his songs normally. So that's the difference between those things. They're still copyrighted songs. They could still submit them to YouTube to be part of the Content ID system to make sure that people aren't just copying the songs and using them without buying that royalty-free license. So there is the possibility of that, which is why you need to have the paperwork down for that. Now, one other thing that should be mentioned is very popular right now is live video. YouTube is trying to push very hard to get more and more people to use live video now that Facebook Live has become such a big thing. Well, Content ID applies there as well. If you use a copyrighted song in your live video, as the live video is going on, the Content ID system, that's the system that listens and finds music, is running on your video to make sure that you're not playing music in your live video. If you are, they'll cut off the live and you'll get a strike on your account.
Okay, does this count? Does this count Do. Okay, sorry.
It could very well. So if by Steve doing that 15 times in this show gets this pulled off of YouTube, when we place it up there, we'll know for sure.
I'm in trouble. That's pathetic.
But the point being is that, anytime you do these things, you want to get permission for any of the music that you use. And it'll just make your life easier, and you'll be much happier doing that. So
that's right.
There you go.
Good stuff, Ray. Thanks.
Yes. Now,
Mindset
before we get
matters?
out of here on this, if you know anything more about copyrighted video, be sure to let us know. Send us a message on Facebook or comment below this video on Facebook or on YouTube or wherever you happen to see it. Let us know what you think. Is there something we missed about this? We'd love to hear it and learn more about it, because that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry I stepped on you there.
That's okay.
It happens all the time, though. So, Mindset Matters.
That is what happens. Well, yeah, let's do a little bit of Mindset Matters. We got something a little different for us today here. So,
cool.
Let's play that little bumper. Here we go.
And now, Mindset Matters.
All right, so for today's Mindset Matters, I want to keep something nice and simple and tell you that it's time for you to get onto the podcast bandwagon. Yes, that's right. And I'm not talking about creating a podcast necessarily here. I'm talking about listening to podcasts. Podcasts are by far the best way to get information completely for free. That's passive. Obviously YouTube, you can get a lot of videos, but you can't watch a video while you're driving down the street. And if you do, it's probably not a good idea. But you can listen to podcasts while you're driving. You can listen to podcasts while you're at the gym. You can listen to podcasts while you're working. And that's why we highly recommend that you check out podcasts, because there are so many different things out there that are going to teach you stuff like copywriting of music. They're going to teach you things like how to run a local business. They're going to teach you things like how to cook. I mean, who knows? The sky is the limit, but you can learn a ton by doing podcasts. Now, a couple of my favorite podcasts, Internet Business Mastery, the Pat Flynn's various shows. And there we go. The doorbell rang, and the dogs are on the hunt.
The dogs.
Love it. Every day at this time.
I should get my dogs in here. Yeah.
That's right. So this is the time when the dog... We should get this sponsored by Purina.
What do you got, 20 dogs there?
It sounds like it, doesn't it? No, we don't. Yeah. But it certainly does sound like we got 20 of them. So.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's the mail person leaving a large package that doesn't fit in our absurdly small mailbox.
That's
on
right.
the doorstep, so they have to ring the bell. And
so you like Pat Flynn? You like Pat?
I do.
Flynn?
I like Pat Flynn. He's got a couple of different podcasts, and they're definitely worth checking out. And they don't all have to be educational. You could be doing sports podcasts. I mean, Shaq has his own podcast. You can listen to Shaq all day long if you want. So there's a lot of great things on there. Retro things. There's news podcasts. A lot of guys who do news talk shows have podcasts. A lot of guys you see on the news on TV, they do podcasts. So there's a lot of great podcasts out there that you can check out. And of course, there's a lot of great ways to get podcasts. My personal favorite is to use the podcast app from Apple. Used to be just iTunes, but now it's Apple Podcasts. Steve, what's your favorite?
As far as the podcatcher or my show, the shows I like?
Oh, both, actually.
Let's the shows I like, Backstory is good. It's from NPR, but it's like 5 history professors.
Nice.
Johns Hopkins, University of Virginia. And it's what they say it is. It's backstory. It's the stuff that wasn't, in the history books, and it's not revisionism either. It's very pragmatic. I like Home Gadget Geeks. They talk it, and it's not just home. It's just it's tech. They should call it Tech Geeks, but anyhow, it helps me keep up on all things tech, which I'm really interested in. So that's cool. My favorite podcatcher is probably Podcast Republic, because I'm a Droid guy. And by the way, I'm getting a smartphone.
All right, it's about time.
Yeah, I've stayed away from it only because when I leave home, I want to get away from computers and stuff. But what I've realized is that tablet, which is, how big is a tablet? It's a little tough to walk and listen to podcasts with that thing, whereas with a smartphone, you can just put it in your pocket. And so, but yeah, I like Podcast Republic. That's a good Droid podcatcher. And anything that's in iTunes automatically goes to Podcast Republic. Nice. So it works well. Yeah.
And of course, there's SoundCloud and Stitcher and all these other ones that you can get them from. So
Stitcher's good. SoundCloud, who knows how long it's going to be around, but people keep saying that. They're overextended big time.
Yes.
But anyhow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Be interesting to see and find out what happens. But regardless of that, get out there and listen to some podcasts. Check them out because there's so many things and so many subjects. You can really start to learn a lot from just listening to a few podcasts. So that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, and it's the radio show about video marketing madness with Ray the Video Guy. I'm Steve Sleeper, and today's show made possible by
freevideoeditor.co. If you're looking to start editing, you want to start making some great videos, well, you need a free video editor from us instead of paying all that money for all those high-priced ones. And you can get one now at freevideoeditor.co. Download the editor and all of our goodies so that you can start doing some fun, productive things immediately. And again, that's at freevideoeditor.co. Leave off the last M for Mayweather.
Oh, Mayweather. Yeah, okay.
Yes. There we go. An M popped up on there.
Or McGregor.
Or McGregor. McGregor would work
Yeah.
as well. So, freevideoeditor.co. Leave off the last M for McGregor.
All right.
All right.
Very good. Very good.
And with that, another episode comes to an end, Steve.
Did you say rap?
We are wrapping up the show, so let's hit the rap song and get ourselves out of here. Here we go.
Biggie. He's Ray, the video guy. Yeah, Ray, the video guy. His skill is where it's at. Even if he's a little fat, he's filled with video expertise and has so much knowledge that you need, you know. He stays sharp like a crease in his pants. His YouTube ninja tricks can make your marketing super sick. He's Ray the video guy, yeah. Ray the video guy,